Okay. I'm having a tough time reading the word today. Maybe because it's so late at night and I just got done studying, taking practice tests, and being frustrated with that. Well, maybe not frustrated, but when you're getting answers wrong, it is a little frustrating. But I'm going to get through because the Lord will keep me. All right, chapter 14, and then we'll read chapter 15 and we'll be done. So the laws of cleansing lepers. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "This shall be the law of the leprous person for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look. Then if the case of the leper's disease is healed in the leprous person, then the priest shall command them to take him." Okay, let me start over. Then if the case of the leprous disease is healed in the leprous person, the priest shall command them to take for him who is to be cleansed to live clean birds and cedar wood and scarlet yarn and hyssop. And the priest shall command them to kill one of the birds in an earthenware vessel over fresh water. He shall take the live bird and the cedar wood and the scarlet yarn and the hyssop and dip them in the live bird and the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. Ugh. Then he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed of the leprous disease. Then he shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird go into the open field. And he who is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes and shave off all his hair, and bathe himself in water, and he shall be clean. And after that he may come into the camp, but live outside his tent 7 days. On the 7th day he shall shave off all his hair from his head, his beard, his eyebrows. Dang. You have to shave his eyebrows too? And he shall shave off all his hair. And then he shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and he shall be clean. This low-key reminds me of when one of his servants or his warriors, what is it called when they fight for you? I forgot. I'm sorry. He was dirty. I mean, he wasn't dirty, but he was a leprous, and so they saw him as unclean or dirty. And he told him to go wash himself, and he was shocked. He didn't like that. He thought it had to be a miracle. On the 8th day, he shall take 2 male lambs without blemish, 1 ewe lamb a year without blemish, and a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, and 1 log of oil. And the priest who cleanses him shall set the man who is to be cleansed in these things before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the priest shall take 1 of the male lambs and offer it on the guilt offering, along with the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. And he shall kill the lamb in the place where they kill the sin offering, and the burnt offering in the place of the sanctuary. For the guilt offering, like the sin offering, belongs to the priest. It is most holy. The priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and the priest shall put it on the lobe of the right ear of whom is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take some of the log of the oil and pour it into the palm of his hand, or his left hand, and dip his right finger in the oil that is in the left hand, and sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. And some of the oil that remains in his hands the priest shall put on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, and his big toe, or right big toe, on top of the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand, he shall put it on the head of him who is to be cleansed. And the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest shall offer the sin offering and to make atonement for him who is to be cleansed from his uncleanliness. And afterward he shall kill the burnt offering, and the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. And the priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be clean. But if he is poor and he cannot afford so much, he shall take one male lamb for a guilt offering to be waived, to make atonement for him, and a tenth of an ephah of fine flour with oil and a grain offering and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves and 2 pigeons, whichever he can afford. The one shall be a sin offering, and the other shall be a burnt offering. On the 8th day he shall bring them for his cleansing to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. And the priest shall take the lamb of the guilt offering and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them for wave offering before the Lord. And he shall kill the lamb of the guilt offering, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the toe of his right foot, big toe of his right foot. And the priest shall pour some of the oil into the palm of his left hand, and shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in the left hand 7 times before the Lord. And the priest shall put some of the oil that is on the hand of the lobe of the right ear of whom is to be cleansed, on the thumb, on the big toe of his right foot and hand, and in this place where the blood of the guilt offering was put. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed, and to make atonement for him before the Lord. He shall offer to the turtle doves of the pigeons, whichever he can afford, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, along with the grain offering. And the priest shall make atonement before the Lord for him who is being cleansed. This is the law for him who has the case of leprous disease, who cannot afford the offerings of his cleansing. Laws of cleansing houses. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I give you to, or Canaan, to which I have given for your possession, and I put a case of leprous disease in a house in the land of your possession, then he who owned the house shall come and tell the priest, there seems to be some case of disease in my house. Then the priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest goes to examine the disease, lest all that is in the house be declared unclean. And afterward the priest shall go into the house. He shall examine the disease. If the disease is in the walls of the house with greenish and reddish spots, if it appears to be deeper than the sacrifice, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut it up for 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day and look. If the disease has spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take out the stones in which the house is thrown, which is the disease, and throw them into the unclean place outside the city. And he shall have the inside of the house scraped all around, and the plaster that they scrape off they shall pour into the unclean place outside the city. Then he shall take the other stones and put them in the place of those stones. And he shall take plaster and plaster the house. If the disease breaks out again in the house, after he has taken out the stones and scraped the house and plaster, then the priest shall go and look. And if the disease has spread in the house, it is a persistent leprous disease in the house, it is unclean. He shall break down the house, its stones, timber, and plaster the house, and he shall carry them out of the city to be an unclean place. Moreover, whoever enters the house while it is shut up and unclean until the evening, whoever sleeps in the house shall wash his clothes, and whoever eats in the house shall wash his clothes. But if the priest comes out and looks, and if the disease is not spread in the house after the house was plastered, and the priest shall pronounce the house clean, for the house is healed. And if the cleansing of the house shall take 2 small birds with cedar wood, scarlet yarn, hyssop, and shall kill one of the birds in an earthenware vessel over fresh water, and shall take the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn, along with the live bird, and dip it in the blood of the bird that was killed in the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. Then he shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird and the fresh water, with the bird, the live bird, and with the cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet yarn. He shall let the bird go out of the city into the open country. So he shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law for any case of leprous disease, for any itch, for leprous disease, and is in a garment or a house, for a swelling or an eruption of a spot, to show what is clean. This is the law for leprous disease. Chapter 15, this is our last chapter. Laws about bodily discharges. The law spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, when any man has discharge from his body, his discharge is unclean. And this is a law of his uncleanness for a discharge, whether his body runs with his charge or his body is blocked by his discharge. It is unclean. It is his uncleanness. Every bed on which the one with the discharge lies shall be unclean, and everything on which he sits on shall be unclean. And anyone who touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean till the evening. And whoever sits on anything on which the one who is discharged has sat shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean till the evening. And whoever touches the body of the one with the discharge shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in the water, and be unclean till evening. And if the one who discharged spits on someone who is unclean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in the water, and be unclean till evening. And any saddle on which the one who is discharged rides shall be unclean. And whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until evening. Whoever carries such things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean till evening. Anyone whom the one with the discharge touches without having rinsed his hands in water shall rinse in water, shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean till evening. And an earthenware vessel that the one with the discharge touches shall be unclean, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when the one with the discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count for himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and he shall bathe his body in fresh water, and shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take the 2 turtle doves and the pigeons, and come before the Lord to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall use them, one for a sin offering, one for a burnt offering. And if the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord for his discharge. If a man has an emission of semen, he shall bathe his whole body in water, and be unclean till evening. And every garment and every skin on which the semen comes shall be washed with water, and be unclean till evening. If a man lies with a woman and has an emission of semen, both of them shall bathe themselves in water, and be unclean till evening. When a woman has a discharge, and the discharge in her body is blood, she shall be in her menstrual impurity for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. And everything on which she lies during the menstrual impurity shall be unclean. Everything also on which she sits shall be unclean, and whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And whoever touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in the water, and be unclean till evening. Whether it's in the bed or anything on which she sits, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until the evening. And if any man lies with her, and her menstrual impurity comes upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. If a woman has discharge of blood for many days, not at the time of her menstrual impurity, or if she has discharge beyond the time of her impurity, all the days of discharge she shall continue in uncleanness. This reminds me of the woman with the issue of blood. She was bleeding for like 12 years. I think it was in Matthew. I'm pretty sure it was in Matthew. She was bleeding for like 12 years. And she touched Jesus, his garment. And she was clean. She was healed. Every bed on which she lies, all the days of her discharge shall be let me start at 25. If a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, not at the time of her menstrual impurity, or if she has a discharge beyond the time of her impurity, all the days of her life, all the days of her discharge shall continue in uncleanness. As in the days of her impurity, she shall be unclean. Every bed on which she lies, all the days of her discharge shall be too, as the bed of her impurity. Everything and everything on which she sits shall be unclean, as in the uncleanness of her menstrual impurity. And whoever touches these things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. But if she is cleansed for her discharge, she shall count herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves and 2 pigeons, and bring them to the priest in the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the priest shall use them for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make atonement for her before the Lord for her unclean discharge. Thus you shall keep the people of Israel separate from their uncleanness, lest they die in the uncleanness by defiling my tabernacle that is in the midst. This is the law for him who has a discharge, and for him who has an emission of semen, becoming unclean thereby. Also for her who is unclean with her menstrual impurity, that is, for anyone, male or female, who has discharge, or for the man who lies with a woman who is unclean. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and doing of his word. Y'all, it took a lot. Well, it took God to get me through that, because I'm really exhausted today. It's 10:26. I'm about to go straight to bed. I just can't. I don't want to do nothing else. Yeah, Father, thank you so much for getting me through that, because even before I started doing the Bible study today, I felt myself giving reasons as to why I shouldn't do this. I'm like, I just was giving myself a lot of excuses. Some of them being, the Lord wouldn't want me to be tired, or the Lord wouldn't want me to do this. But I remembered that I made a promise to you, and that is what mattered to me. So